Northbound plane. In 1999, we packed up our house and left Florida. I'd gotten a new job in Pennsylvania. On moving day, we arrived at the airport with 2 frogs, 3 goldfish, a hermit crab, a snail named Sluggy, and a box of live crickets for feeding the frogs. And, of course, Marley. Like most things that involved Marley, getting him on the plane wasn't easy. He had to ride in a crate where the luggage was stored. We stepped up to the airline counter with Marley on his leash. A woman in uniform looked at Marley, then looked at the crate I had brought for him. "We can't allow that dog aboard in that container," she said. "He's too big for it." "The pet store said this was the large dog size," I pleaded. I hadn't actually checked to make sure our very large dog would fit. "Airline rules say that the dog has to be able to stand up and turn all the way around," she explained. "Go ahead, give it a try." I opened the gate and called Marley. He was not about to walk voluntarily into jail. I pushed him and prodded him. He didn't budge. I searched my pockets for something to bribe him with. Where were the dog biscuits when I needed them? I found a tin of breath mints. This is as good as it's going to get, I thought. I took one out and held it in front of his nose. "Want a mint, Marley? Go get the mint." And I tossed it into the crate. Sure enough, he took the bait and walked right into the box. The lady was right. He didn't quite fit. He scrunched down so his head wouldn't hit the ceiling. His butt stuck out the open door. I scrunched his tail down and closed the gate, shoving his rear inside. "See," I said, "he fits." "He's got to be able to turn around," the woman told me. "Turn around, boy," I called, giving a little whistle. "Come on, turn around." Marley shot a glance at me over his shoulder. His eyes were asking, "And how do you expect me to do that?" If Marley couldn't turn around, the airline was not letting him on the plane. I checked my watch. We had 12 minutes to make the flight. "Come here, Marley," I said more desperately. "Come on." I snapped my fingers, rattled the metal gate, made kissy-kissy sounds. "Come on," I pleaded. "Turn around." I was about to drop to my knees and beg when I heard a crash. "Oops," Patrick said. "The frogs are loose," Jenny screamed, jumping into action. "Froggy, Croaky, come back," the boys yelled in unison. Jenny was on all fours now, racing around the terminal. The frog stayed 1 hop ahead of her. Passers-by stopped and stared. From a distance, you could not see the frogs at all, just the crazy lady with the diaper bag hanging from her neck. Looking at their faces, I could tell they fully expected her to start howling at any moment. "Excuse me a second," I said as calmly as I could to the airline worker. Then I got down on my hands and knees too. Just as they were about to leap out of the automatic doors, we captured Froggy and Croaky. As we turned back, I heard a mighty ruckus coming from the dog crate. The entire box shivered and lurched across the floor. When I peered in, I saw that Marley had somehow gotten himself turned around. "See," I said to the baggage supervisor, "he can turn around, no problem." "Okay," she said with a frown, "but you're really pushing it." 2 workers lifted Marley and his crate onto a dolly and wheeled him away. The rest of us raced for our flight, arriving at the gate just as the flight attendants were closing the hatch. "Wait, we're here," I shouted, pushing Colleen ahead of me. The boys and Jenny trailed by 50 feet. As we settled into our seats, I breathed a sigh of relief. We'd gotten Marley squared away. We'd recaptured the frogs. We'd made the flight. Next stop, Allentown, Pennsylvania. I could relax now. Through the window, I watched as a tram pulled up with the dog crate sitting on it. "Look," I said to the kids, "there's Marley." They waved out the window and called, "Hi, Waddy." As the engines rev, I pulled out a magazine. That's when I noticed Jenny freeze in the row in front of me. Then I heard it too. From below our feet, deep in the bowels of the plane, came a muffled sound. Starting low and mournful, it rose as it went. Oh dear, I thought, he's down there howling. Just so you know, Labrador retrievers do not howl. Beagles howl. Wolves howl. Labs do not howl, at least not well. Marley had attempted to howl twice before. both times in answer to a passing police siren, tossing back his head, forming his mouth into an O shape, and letting loose the most pathetic sound I've ever heard. More like he was gargling than answering the call of the wild. But now, no question about it, he was howling. The passengers began to look up from their newspapers and novels. A flight attendant handing out pillows paused and cocked her head quizzically. "Listen, do you hear that?" a woman across the aisle asked her husband. "I think it's a dog." Jenny stared straight ahead. I stared into my magazine. If anyone asked, we were denying ownership. "Wattie's sad," Patrick said. I just pulled my magazine higher over my face. The jet engines whined and the plane taxied down the runway, drowning out Marley. I pictured him down below in the dark hold, alone, scared, confused, not even able to stand up fully. I imagined the roaring engines. To Marley, they probably sounded like another thunderous assault by random lightning bolts determined to take him out. The poor guy. I knew I would be spending the whole flight worrying about him. The airplane was barely off the ground when I heard another little crash. "Oops," Connor said. I looked down and then stared straight into my magazine. After several seconds, I glanced around. When I was pretty sure no one was staring, I leaned forward and whispered into Jenny's ear, "Don't look now, but the crickets are loose."